Welcome. Today we are reading The Last Wish. Okay. Um, if you've seen the Witcher series on Netflix, this is the first book in the series, and I'm on page 194. Now, if you have The Last Wish, come join me. A troubadour who considers my companion also a poet and musician, a talentless wastrel who panders the taste of the masses. The sorceress turned round with a strange glimmer in her eyes. Could it be that your friend managed to express a wish? Two, both stupid. Why do you ask? This fulfilling of wishes by genies is nonsense. After all, Jinn's spirits of the lamp. Clearly nonsense, repeated Yennefer with a smile. Of course, it's an invention, a fairy tale devoid of any sense, like all legends in which good spirits, fortune tellers fulfill wishes. Stories like that are made up by poor simpletons. Who can't even dream of fulfilling their wishes and desires themselves? I am pleased you're not one of them, Gerald of Rivia. It makes you closer in spirit to me if I want something. I don't dream of it. I act, and I always get what I want. I don't doubt it. Are you ready? I am. The sorceress finished fastening the straps of her slippers and stood up. Even in high heels, she wasn't impressively tall. She took her hair, which he found had retained its picturesque, disheveled, and curling disarray despite the furious combing. I got a question, Gerald. The seal which closed the bottle. Has your friend still got it? The Witcher reflected. He had the seal, not Dandelion, but experience had taught him that sorcerers shouldn't be told too much. I think so. He deceived her as to the reason for his delay in replying. Yes, he probably does. Why? Is the seal important? That's a strange question, she said sharply. For a witcher and a specialist in supernatural monstrosities, someone who ought to know that such a seal is important enough not to touch, and not to let their friend touch. He clenched his jaw. The blow was well aimed. Oh well. Yennefer changed her tone to a much gentler one. No one's infallible. No witcher's infallible. As we see, everyone can make a mistake. Well, we can't get it on our way. Where's your comrade? Here in Rind? Ah, Eredils, the elves. She looked at him carefully. Eredils, she repeated, contorting her lips in a smile. I know where that is. And I gather his cousin, Chiridan, is there too. That's right. But what? Nothing, she interrupted, raised her arms and closed her eyes. The medallion around the witch's neck pulsed, tugged at the chain. On the damp bath chamber wall shone the luminous outline of a door which framed swirling milky nothingness. The Witcher cursed. He didn't like the magical portals or traveling by them. Do we have to? He cleared his throat. It's not far. I can't walk the streets of this town, she cut him short. They're not too crazy about me here. They might insult me and throw stones or do something worse. Several people are effectively ruining my reputation here, thinking they can get away with it. Don't worry, my portals are safe. Gerald had once watched as only half a traveler using a safe portal flew through. The other half was never found. He knew of several cases where people had entered a portal and never been seen again. The sorceress adjusted her hair again and pinned a pearl embossed purse to her belt. The purse looked too small to hold anything other than a handful of coppers and a lipstick, but Gerald knew it was no ordinary purse. Hold me tighter. I'm not made of china. On our way. The medallion vibrated, something flashed, and Gerald suddenly found himself in black nothingness, in penetrating cold. He couldn't see, hear, or feel anything. Cold was all that the senses could register. He wanted to curse, but didn't have time. It's an hour since she went in. Sheridan turned over the hourglass standing on the table. I'm starting to get worried about Dandelion's throat really so bad. Don't you think we ought to go and have a look? She made it quite clear that she didn't want us to. Gerald finished his mug of herb tea, grimacing dreadfully. He valued and liked the settled elves for their intelligence, calm reserve, and sense of humor, but he couldn't understand or share their taste in food or drink. I don't intend to disturb her, Sheridan. Magic requires time. It can take all day and night as long as Dandelion gets better. Oh well, you're right. A sound of hammering came from the room next door. Errol, as it turned out, lived in a deserted inn which he had bought, intending to renovate and then open with his wife, a quiet, taciturn elf. Vladimir, who had taken to their company after a night spent with the elves in the guardroom, volunteered to help with the repairs. He got down to renovating the wood paneling, working alongside the married couple as soon as the confusion created by the Witcher and Yennefer leaping through the wall in the flash of a portal had subsided. I didn't think you'd find it so easy. If I'm to be honest, Sheridan went on, Yennefer isn't the most spontaneous of people when it comes to help. Others' troubles don't particularly bother her and don't disturb her sleep. In a word, I've never heard of her helping anyone if there wasn't something in it for her. I wonder what's in it for her to help you and Danai. Oh my. It's book promotion time. If you like YA horror, Goosebumps, Fear Street, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Then you can see my YA horror book, Vampire Juice. Link is in the bio. Back to The Witcher. Oh well, you're right. A sound of hammering came from the room next door. Edward, as it turned out, lived in a deserted inn, which he had bought intending to... Oh my, I lost my spot. Aren't you exaggerating? The Witcher smiled. I didn't have such a bad impression of her. She likes to demonstrate her superiority. It's true, but compared with other wizards, with that whole arrogant bunch, she's walking charm and kindliness personified. Ch- Sheridan also smiled. It's almost as though you thought a scorpion were prettier than a spider, he said, because it's got such a lovely tail. Be careful, Geralt. You're not the first to have judged her like that without knowing she's turned her charm and beauty into weapons. Weapons she uses skillfully and without scruple, which of course doesn't change the fact that she's a fascinating and good-looking woman. You wouldn't disagree, would you? Geralt glanced keenly at the elf. For a second time, he thought he saw traces of a blush on his face. It surprised him no less that Sheridan's words, pure-blooded elves, were not wont to admire human women, even the very beautiful ones, and Yennefer, although attractive in her own way, could pass as a great beauty. Each to their own taste, but in actual fact, not many would describe sorceresses as good-looking. Indeed, all of them came from social circles where the only fate for daughters would be marriage. Who would have thought of condemning their daughter to years of tedious studies and the tortures of somatic mutations if she could be given away in marriage and advantageously allied? Who wished to have a sorceress in their family? Despite the respect enjoyed by magicians, a sorceress's family did not benefit from her in the least, because by the time the girl had completed her education, nothing tied her to her family anymore. Only brotherhood counted, to the exclusion of all else. So only daughters with no chance of finding a husband became sorceresses. Unlike priestesses and druidesses, who only unwillingly took ugly or crippled girls, sorcerers took anyone who showed evidence of a predisposition. If the child passed the first years of training, magic entered into the equation, straightening and evening out legs and repairing bones which had badly knitted, patching hair lips, removing scars, birthmarks, pox scars. The young sorceress would become attractive because the prestige of her profession demanded it. The result was Poseidon pretty women in the angry and cold eyes of ugly girls. Girls who couldn't forget their ugliness and had been covered by the mask of magic only for the prestige of their profession. No, Geralt couldn't understand Sheridan. His eyes, the eyes of the Witcher, registered too many details. No, Sheridan, he answered. I wouldn't disagree. Thank you for the warning. But this only concerns Dandelion. He suffered at my side and in my presence. I didn't manage to save him, and I couldn't help him. I'd sit on a scorpion with my bare backside if I knew it would help him. That's precisely what you've got to beware of most, the elf smiled enigmatically, because Yennefer knows it, and she likes to make the most of such knowledge. Don't trust her, Geralt. She's dangerous. He didn't answer. Upstairs, the door squeaked. Yennefer stood at the stairs, leaning on the gallery balustrade. Witcher, would you come here? Of course. The sorceress leaned her back against the door of one of the few rooms with furniture. where they had put the suffering troubadour. The Witcher approached, watchful and silent. He saw her left shoulder slightly higher than her right, her nose slightly too long, her lips a touch too narrow, her chin receding a little too much, her brows a little too irregular, her eyes. He saw too many details, quite unnecessarily. How's Dandelion? Do you doubt my capabilities? He continued watching. She had the figure of a 20-year-old, although he preferred not to guess at her real age. She moved with natural, unaffected grace. No, there was no way of guessing what she had been like before, what had been improved. He stopped thinking about it. There wasn't any sense. Your talented friend will be well, she said. He'll recover. His vocal talents. You have my gratitude, Yennefer. She smiled. You'll have an opportunity to prove it. Can I look in on him? She remained silent for a moment, watching him with a strange smile and drumming her fingers on the doorframe. Of course. Go in. The medallion on the Witcher's neck started to quiver, sharply and rhythmically. A glass sphere the size of a small watermelon, aflame with a milky light, lay in the center of the floor. The sphere marked the heart of a precisely traced, nine-pointed star whose arms reached the corners and walls of the small chamber. A red pentagram was inscribed within the star. The tips of the pentagram were marked by black candles standing in weirdly shaped shoulders. Black candles had also been lit at the head of the bed where Dandelion, covered with sheepskin, rested. The poet was breathing peacefully. He didn't wheeze or rasp any more. And the rictus of pain had disappeared from his face to be replaced by an idiotic smile of happiness. He's asleep, said Yennefer, and dreaming. Gerald examined the patterns and traced on the floor. The magic hidden within them was palpable, but he knew it was a dormant magic. It brought to mind the purr of a sleeping lion without suggesting how the roar might sound. What is this, Yennefer? A trap. For what? For you. For the time being. The sorceress turned the key in the lock and then turned it over in her hand. The key disappeared. And thus I'm trapped, he said coldly. What now? Are you going to assault my virtue? Don't flatter yourself. Yennefer sat on the edge of the bed. Dandelion, still smiling like a moron, groaned quietly. It was without a doubt a groan of bliss. What's this all about, Yennefer? If it's a game, I don't know the rules. I told you, she began, that I always get what I want. As it happens, I desire something that Dandelion has. I will get it from him, and we can part ways. Don't worry. He won't come to any harm. The things you've set on the floor, he interrupted, are used to summon demons. Someone always comes to harm where demons are summoned. I won't allow it. Not a hair of his head will be harmed, continued the sorceress. Without paying any attention to his words, his voice will be even more beautiful, and he'll be very pleased, even happy. We'll all be happy, and we'll part with no ill feelings or resentment. Oh, Virginia, moaned Dandelion without opening his eyes. Your breasts are so beautiful, more delicate than a swan. Down, Virginia. Has he lost his mind? Is he raving? He's dreaming, Yennefer smiled. His dream wish is being satisfied in his sleep. I probed his mind to the very depths. There wasn't much there. A few obscenities, several dreams, and masses of poetry. But be that as it may, the seal which plugged the bottle with the gin, Gerald. I know he doesn't have it. You do. Please give it to me. What do you need the seal for? How should I answer your question? The sorceress smiled. Let's try this. It's none of your damn business, Witcher. Does that satisfy you? No. His smile was equally nasty. It doesn't. But don't reproach yourself for it, Yennefer. I'm not easily satisfied. Only those who are above average have managed so far. Pity. So you'll remain unsatisfied. It's your loss. The seal, please. Don't pull that face. It doesn't suit either your good looks or your complexion. In case you hadn't noticed, let me tell you that you are now beginning to repay the gratitude you owe me. The seal is the first installment for the price to be paid for the singer's voice. I see. You've divided the price into several installments, he said coldly. Fine, I might have expected that, but let it be a fair trade, Yennefer. I bought your help, and I'll pay. She contorted her lips in a smile, but her violet eyes remained wide open and cold. You shouldn't have any doubts as to that, Witcher. Me, he repeated, not Dandelion. I'm taking him to a safe place. When I've done that, I'll come back and pay your second installment and all the others, because as to the first, he reached into a secret pocket of his belt and pulled out a brass seal with the sign of a star and a broken cross. Here, take it. Not as an installment. Accept it from a Witcher as proof of his gratitude for having treated him more kindly. I beat in a calculated manner than the majority of your brethren would have done. Accept it as an evidence of goodwill which ought to convince you that having seen to my friend's safety, I will return to repay you. I did see the scorpion and miss the flowers, Yennefer. I'm prepared to pay for my inattention. A pretty speech. The sorceress folded her arms, touching and pompous. Pity, it's in vain. I need Dandelion, so he's staying here. He's already been close to the creature you intend to draw here. Gerald indicated the patterns on the floor. When you finish your handiwork and brought the gin here, Dandelion is almost certainly going to suffer despite all your promises, maybe even more than before. Because it's the creature from the bottle that you want, isn't it? Don't you intend to master it, force it to serve you? You don't have to answer. I know it's none of my damn business. Do what you want. Draw 10 demons in it. Demons in, if you like, but without Dandelion. If you put him at risk, this will no longer be an honest trade, Yennefer, and you don't have the right to demand payment for that. I won't allow, he broke off. I wonder when you'd feel it, giggled the sorceress. Gerald tensed his muscles and, clenching his jaw until it hurt, strained his entire will. It didn't help. He was paralyzed, like a stone statue, like a post which had been dug into the ground. He couldn't even wiggle a toe. I knew you could deflect a spell drawn straight at you, said Yennefer. I also knew that before you tried anything, you tried to impress me with your eloquence. You were talking while the spell hanging over you was working and slowly breaking you. Now you can only talk, but you don't have to impress me anymore. I know you're eloquent. Any further efforts in that direction will only spoil the effect. Sheridan, he said with an effort, still fighting the magical paralysis, Sheridan will realize that you're up to something. He'll soon work it out, suspect something any minute now because he doesn't trust you. Yennefer, he hasn't trusted you from the start. The sorceress swept her hand in a broad gesture. The walls of the chamber became blurred. Oh my, I need to stop. My break's over. Alright, thank you for watching. Where's the end? There we go.